Hello and welcome back to the channel. It is white to move and win, so you can pause the video to find the answer on your own. Alright, so as you can see right here, black has the pawn on h3 ready to push, and the pawn on b3 also ready to push. Do you think we can stop both of these two pawns or try to deal with them? Well, let's see what is the best move. Now, of course, playing, for example, rook h8, like if black pushed here, you could take, and you're stopping this pawn. Yes, but no. Black will not push the pawn, will push this pawn. And there is no possible way for us to stop the pawn. Knight e4 check. He can play some kind of king e1. Knight c3 to stop this pawn right here. There's king f2. Even if black, we took right here, there's king g2 pushing the pawn, right? So rook d4, pawn push. And if the pawn pushed, for example, if you went here, pawn push, take, this is a draw. Obviously a draw. We will stop the pawn, we will stop this pawn, and it's going to end up equal. So it's not rook here because this one is too slow. And playing a check, for example, knight e4 check, after king e3, there is no way for us to go here or here to, put a blockade right there with the knight on h1. So it cannot work as well because of this. And we have to move this, and if rook e8, for example, then just b2 and knight c3, stop this, king f2, or king f2, and just pushing the pawn, and still gonna be a draw. So the first move, you will not see it. You cannot see it. Even if rook e8, you remember thinking about the rook d8, for example, check, king e1, and some checks which were just helping black go here and push his pawns. The best move in this position is king a3. You would not understand this until I show you why king a3. King a3, this pawn is the problem, not this one. You might say, how? This pawn is more scary because this pawn can never be stopped by behind. Well, after he plays h2, the second brilliant move, I guess, we're not trying to stop the pawn anymore because this pawn is not so serious. This pawn is the serious pawn. So here in this position, we play rook e8. The idea of rook e8, now you're going to see why. Because if black promotes here, promotes to queen, now we play knight e4 check. The king has to move. As you can see, black has many options. Every single one is losing. For example, let's see if black went to the e file, right? If black went to the e file, it is going to be bad because if we have this discovered check, and we're going to take the queen. For example, queen goes there, take, queen goes here, and we go there defending our knight. The knight is stopping the pawn. The rook can never be pushed. We're going to take it. And black has 0 moves. We're winning this. Okay, so this is why black cannot go to the e file. Okay, what about d3 and d1? d3 and d1, very obvious. Knight f2 fork. The king would move anywhere else. We would take. We can take here. If he wants to go there, trying to push the pawn, we have rook c8. Just push him away from the pawn, and we take it. That's also very simple. So after knight e4 check, cannot go here. Cannot go d3 or d1. Cannot go here because of this move. So only 2 possible moves, king c2 and king c1. Now you might say, well, he can just take. Well, yeah, he can take. And then after some kind of, there's this sneaky move, but then we just take the pawn. He pushes h3, we go there, and he's just going to lose the pawns. There is no way to stop them. And if rook takes, and you thought about king c2 to push the pawn, we can we can take this pawn. It's totally fine because after this push, rook h2, he moves somewhere, take the pawn. That's why he cannot take with the queen. So the only reasonable moves are king c2 or king c1, which as well, both of them are losing. Let's see king c2. King c2, now we play rook c8 check. The idea of rook c8, we're trying to force him back into the d3 and d1 squares so that we can play a fork and win the queen. So he cannot go here, cannot go here, cannot go anywhere else. The only possible move is king b1. After king b1, As you can see, the king is a little bit stuck. We played knight d2 check. King moves there. Another check. King moves there. Another check. King moves there. And rook c2. A very cool waiting move. It's just like, I'm going to crush you on the next move with rook a2 checkmate. Now, as you can see, black has no checks. Cannot play this check. That's freebie. Cannot play this check. Queen h3 because this is a check. If black went here, that's checkmate in one, as you can see. So after this check, black will be forced to take, push some pawns, and that's going to be a checkmate. It's very simple how it's going to end up. All right. So let's go back. After king to e8, now you might say, well, why don't we take the pawn? What is the difference of taking the pawn and not taking it? Well, taking the pawn is going to push h2. And we cannot do the exact same thing like rook e8. That's going to be even worse. He's going to make a queen. Yes, we have a check. And the thing is that he can go king c1. You might say, well, we can play the same thing. Rook c8. King goes there. We play a check. Yes, we play a check. After king a1, there are no more checks because this square is taken away. We need this square for the knight to jump in. But since we've taken the pawn, there will be no check. And we're losing this game. We're losing the game because there are too many checks for black, and the pawn is too close. Okay, that's why we cannot take. But after king a3, he pushes h2. Now, if he plays b2, we just take it. And you might say, well, how is this winning? h2, rook e8, the exact same thing. He makes a queen, knight a4 check. And as you can see, we're holding these squares. And also these squares because of the fork. And also these three squares because of the discovered check, and we win the queen. Right? So he can now push b2. And what other moves that black can play? For example, like, I'm not really sure, like h2, with the exact same thing, rook e8. Here he can choose to move the king, like king d3, just moving the king away. And in this position, we just have rook e1. We're just stopping the pawn. He will attack us. Rook h1. He would go here. We can just take with the check. He would go somewhere else. We would take. He would go here. And we are stopping him. Like, there is no possible way for him to make the queen. Right? And that's it. Thank you for watching.